Okay, welcome back. As you can see, I've finished all of my satin stitches in all of my fingernails, and I've also finished the spot going across the eye. So you can see I actually do have a little bit of a bump here where I veered a little bit off track, but relatively smooth, nice and finished, and it holds that really, really nice shape within our outline. So the next stitch that we're going to move on to today is the center of our eye in this circle, which is going to be our woven wheel or wagon wheel stitch. And how we're going to start that one off is by making a star stitch and weaving within it, and it's going to be awesome. So let's get started. Alright, so to start our woven wheel stitch here in the center of our eye, we're going to grab our burgundy floss. On our legend, the color is red or burgundy in the thread. So I'm going to start by taking a length as long as my arm, giving it a quick snip, splitting my floss into two 3-strand threads. Go ahead and do that. Keeping it untangled as I go, which can sometimes be difficult. There we go. Putting one aside and threading up my needle with one of my 3-strand threads here. And once you have your needle threaded, you are going to tie a knot in the longer end. We're only going to be working with one strand instead of it being completely doubled over. So go ahead and make my knot there. What I want to do is roughly find the center of my eye. So I can poke around a bit with my needle, and you can do this by eye, or you can even draw a little line that will mark where the center of your circle is. But basically I'm going to come up from the bottom and I'm going to do a star stitch. Now, how many points your star has is completely up to you. I'm going to do a true star where it's going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to have 7. Very similar to what we have over here. So I'm going to start by going out to the side of my eye. And just like I did with my star stitch, I'm going to come back to the center, and I'm going to come up right near the center there. Oop, there we go. And then I'm going to go across out to the other side of my circle. And then I'm going to do 1, 2, 3 on top and 1, 2, 3 on the bottom. So I'm actually going to have 8 points in my star. So there's 1, and it goes back to the center. And there's 2 there. And that one's going right back to the center. And then there's 3, and that one is also going back to the center, trying to keep it nice and evenly spaced. And now I'm going to repeat those 3 points of that star underneath as well. So I'm going to go just off to the side there, coming back to the center, down to the bottom here, and coming back up to the center, and one more off to the side, whoop, and back to the center. So now you've done a star stitch in the center of your eye. Very nice. So I'm going to zoom in so that you can see now how we make the woven wheel. Okay, so how you're going to do the woven wheel is you're going to come up next to the center. And what you want to do is make sure that your thread or your needle is as close to the center as possible, if not right in the center. I'm going to bring mine up just next to it. And now all you do to make the woven wheel is you move your needle either over or under around the star stitch. So I'm going to go over my first stitch, under my second stitch, and over my third stitch. So what you can see there is my needle is going over and under. So it went over this stitch, it went under that stitch. Now it's going to go over this stitch and under this stitch. So every second stitch you're putting your needle through. So there's that. It's going to go over this next one and under this one. And then it's going to go over this one and under this one. And then you just continue that motion, making sure you don't get your needles caught in any of your other stitches there. But you're moving all around it, forming a wheel. So I'm going under this one, and I think I went over it last time. So that's different. And then I go under this one. And then I go under this one. And then I go under this one. And then I go under that one. Now, if you find that it's kind of piling up and it's not quite going over and under the way you'd like it to, you can switch when you get back to your first point in your star. So I usually go over this one, but I'm going to go under it this time. Then I'm going to go over that one. So I'm passing over this one, going under this one, which is the opposite of what I did last time. I'm going to go over that one and go under that one. I'm going to go over this one and under this one. Oh, sorry, I'll rotate it a bit. So I'm going over this one and under this one. And you keep alternating all the way around. So over this one and normally under, but we're going to go over, under, and under. And then flip it around again. Sorry. Ooh, getting all tangled. There we go. And so you can see what you're starting to get there is a woven circle, and you're going to keep going until you're all the way at the outside edge of your star stitch. So I'm going to keep going until my eye is totally filled. Okay, so just to show you there, that is my now completed woven wheel stitch. Now, one of the beautiful parts of a woven wheel stitch is it can actually be the center of your flowers as well. If you were to embroider a flower or a rosebud, the woven wheel stitch actually works really well for doing what looks like roses or carnations. So how you finish off your wagon wheel stitch is that you take your thread and you just bury it back below the fabric by making a little tiny stitch just underneath the edge of your wagon wheel, and you just want to make sure that that's all nice and smooth there. Nothing's moving or showing up on the side. Beautiful. Then you're going to flip it over. Whoop. And you're going to just knot your thread by making a stitch into the star on the back, pulling it, going through your loop, and going through your loop again, pulling it nice and tight, and just burying your tail for your knot through those stitches. There we go. And then you can give it a little snip. Whoop. Awesome. Now you've got the center of your eye in woven wheel stitch. Okay, so now that you've finished your awesome woven wheel stitch, you can move on to doing the woven stitch for the raindrops. Now this is also known as a basket stitch, but basically you're going to be weaving your stitches in these bottom raindrops. So for that stitch, we're doing it in mauve. So this is my mauve color, or purple, and that's going to be down along these raindrops. So I'm going to do the first one to show you how it goes, and then you can try it out yourself. So I'm going to thread up our needle the same way as we did with the woven wheel stitch. Okay, so I've got my needle threaded and folded over with the longer end knotted. And I'm going to start with this first raindrop over here. How I want to do this is I want to come up either from the top to bottom or across first. And I think what I'm going to do first to make it easier is I'm actually going to go across, back and forth, and then I'm going to go up and down. So what I want to do is bring my needle up within the outline of my raindrop and go across horizontally to the opposite side of the raindrop and come back down, making a stitch. Then you're going to move down a little bit below where your first stitch was, about the width of your embroidery floss. And you're going to come back up and you're going to go back down. And what you're doing is you're actually creating lines that are just going back and forth across your raindrop or your teardrop. And you're going to do that back and forth until you get to the bottom of the teardrop or raindrop shape. So back and forth. Keeping the distance between your lines the same. You don't want to pull your thread too tight because you don't want anything to pull or ripple, but you want to pull it just nice and tight enough. Oh, and you can see I caught a little edge of my thread there. There you go. Okay, so you're going back and forth, and if you pull too tight, you're going to cause a ripple in the fabric, so you just want to make sure that you pull it flat, but not too tight. You're going to take your needle and continue down below. And I'm just going back and forth across the shape. Boop. And basically at the end of this, you'll have a striped looking teardrop. So as you can see, I've done my lines back and forth across now, and I basically have a stripy looking teardrop. What I want to do now is bring my thread up from the bottom, and you can start on either side. I'm going to start on the bottom side here. And you're going to bring up your needle right on the edge of your outline for your teardrop. Now you can start in the middle, that's also fine, or you can start off to the side. Wherever you would like to start is fine. I tend to just stay somewhere along my outline. And what I want to do is come back up to this point here, but what I'm going to do is take my needle and go in and out and in and out and weave back and forth between these and come up straight up here. So let's do that. Let's go under the first one, over the second one, under that one, and over the next one, under, over, under, over, under. So you can see, whoop, that's what my needle looks like here. And then I'm going to pull that through. Whoop, and I'm going to sink my needle back into the outline at the top of my raindrop or my teardrop. And that's my first part of my woven stitch. Now what I want to do is move over a couple threads, come back up right next to my first line here, coming up next to it, and then go back down, but weave in an opposite way. So whatever you went under, you're going to go over, and whatever you went over, you're going to go under with your needle. So I'm going to do that. There we go. Okay, so I went over, so I'm going to go under or over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over. Whoop. And so that's my next stitch there, right next to it, woven in the opposite way. And then I'm going to bring that one down into the outline at the bottom of my raindrop. And then there should be maybe one more stitch here that you can come up next to on this side, and then you'll do the stitches on the opposite side of where you started. So I'm up through there, and I'm just going to finish off these few on the side here and come back down into my outline somewhere around here. But again, going the opposite of what I just did, so over, under, over, sorry, over, under, over, under, over. Being careful not to get tangled because your thread will want to curl up on itself. And then I'm going to go back into my raindrop at the top. Ooh, ooh. Careful not to get knots. Okay, so what you see here is half of my woven raindrop. And now I want to repeat what I just did on this side on the other side to fill in the other side there. Okay, so that's what it looks like there. So I'm going to come up on the other side around the same point as my first one, and I'm going up through there. And again, the opposite of whatever is right next to it in terms of going over and under. And so for this one, I'm going over, under, over, under, over, under, wait, over, under, then over, then under, over, then under, and over at the bottom. So sometimes it's hard to push those threads around, so you do have to be a little bit dexterous with your needle. There we go. Oh, isn't it? There we go. But there we are. It's nearly done. That's nearly our teardrop, but there's just a few little extra stitches sticking out on the side there, so I'll finish it off like I did on the side of the other one where I come up a little bit higher. And I'm going to go over, under, over, under, over, and by the time I come back up there, I'll be going back into the fabric. So come up there, pull my thread a little bit off to the side there, and then sink it back in. And there you have it. Sorry, trying to get this nice and clear under my camera. Oh. And there you have it. That is the woven stitch. And now that's a basket weave stitch or a woven stitch. And that's just for one of our raindrops or teardrops under our eye shape. And we're going to do that same stitch for the remaining raindrops under there. And when you come back, you'll have all these done, and we'll be moving on to our clouds, which is the last step of our embroidery sampler. So you're almost there. All right,